We just got back from Wonder Woman opening night, one of the first showings, and winning with like real low expectations. All of a sudden we see it has a 97 on Metacritic, no, on Rotten Tomatoes, a 75 on Metacritic, and we're like, okay, like, get those tickets.
Every movie Zach ever sees, it has to go through Metacritic first.
I just want a little, I want to know that it's worth the money, especially here in LA. Worth the money, worth the time, worth the efforts of traversing the traffic. But this movie specifically, how wonderful was this woman?
It was like, I went in thinking that I was going to not like it. I don't particularly care for Wonder Woman. I don't like the TV show, didn't really like any of the comics or anything, just didn't really like the character. I have never felt like so empowered to do stuff in my entire life. That movie was like freaking epic. Like I cried at parts I shouldn't be crying just because I was like, this girl is so awesome.
That's like me with the Lions. Now you know how I feel. It's like the sports thing.
I wanted to call my mom and just be like, I've been wasting my life. Like, just send me to Themyscira. Like, it was so cool. It was amazing. It was just so like awesome and just like empowering. Like, I feel like go women.
Guy or girl, I think it really captured that like underdog essence, and just there was a genuinity to it that so many of the other superhero movies miss out on. And we've basically seen all of them together the last couple of years, and I feel like that one, I like others more for different reasons, but I feel like this one did capture sort of almost like I said, like that sports like underdog nature, and really got into the like psyche and emotion without being like super deep.
That's a good way to put it.
Super dramatic and like overly like obvious and like you don't love me.
There was still like really funny humor.
Yeah, but like they were able to really capture. I feel like the director, who was also one, she was really able to capture sort of like human emotion very well in a way that wasn't corny or over like obvious.
It really made you feel exactly what, you know, whether it was Diana, what she was feeling, or, you know, the people who were, you know, affected by the war, or soldiers. Like, you really felt what they were feeling, even though like no words were being said. And that's what I think really powerful cinematography and a good clear direction can do, when you just give it like everything you have. I don't know, to me, you're gonna be like shocked. I totally like liked that more than Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Wow, that's probably not for me, but that's absolutely awesome. I thought going in it was gonna be very boring. I'm not really a fan of you know, war movies or things of that nature, things set back in that time period. But it ended up being really interesting, and they found ways to not do the traditional scenes and kind of interact with a war in a really interesting way, in a very humane way. I mean, there still was lots of violence, but they found a way to tap, again, into that humanity.
Without being like a very gritty, like gory.
Yeah, like it was done
about
in a way,
the psyche and the emotion of war, not about the violence.
Which I thought was a really interesting take. And then I love those style of fights. I know a lot of people thought it was terrible in Superman, but where they do like that like slow-mo and then like sped up moves, like it really reminds me of Dragon Ball Z in real life.
Because I haven't seen any of the Superman movies, like the newest ones with Henry Cavill, and so to me it was like the first time I had ever seen that, and even just like watching them train, I was like, this is amazing. And it was so funny because all of the fight scenes, like I could just picture every single one being like an Injustice like super move, like towards the end.
Well, and I was gonna say, like in Injustice, I really don't care for Wonder Woman, and so I was worried that the fight scenes would be very boring. And I think even given her less in-your-face moveset, they were able to make it still really interesting and really exciting, and they shot it really well, and all of just their flips and spins. Some of them were like a little like overboard, like, okay, did you really need to do this backflip off the horse to shoot the arrow? But they made it look so cool, and you could tell like these people were not only just like super strong, but they had like almost like a dance to it. Like they were very...
They were trained in the art of war.
Yeah, exactly, in the art of it. That's a really good way to put it. And I felt like the acting was so much better than in most of the recent DC stuff. And I felt like Wonder Woman here, Gal Gadot did a much better job of like capturing that character in a way that like to me didn't come across as well in Batman vs Superman. I know you didn't see that. Yeah. Probably good that you didn't. But you might want to watch it just to see how like, how they come together, because it's interesting. I feel like Chris Pine and her played off each other really well.
They were really cute.
And their sort of the secondary characters were interesting. You pointed out, I'm shocked, we won't spoil it, but don't say who it is, but the actor that you were like, oh my god, I can't believe he's in the movie, ends up being the bad guy. So that was pretty funny.
My face when I saw this character, I was so excited. I was like, this is like one of my favorite like actors of all time, and it was just so like.
Don't say what movie they're from or anything like that.
I won't.
All right.
I won't.
So.
But it was so cool.
No spoilers, but was there anything you didn't really like about it, or anything that sort of was like, oh, more of this?
There was a couple like cheesy scenes. One of the scenes, I guess, can I talk about a specific scene that I thought was cheesy?
Yeah, I know what scene you're talking about. Just don't mention who it involved.
Like, there's one point where, like, someone has to prove that they're telling the truth. So, like, they just, like, pick up her skirt and, like, pull out her lasso and, like, wrap it around his wrist. And to me, that was, like, really, I don't know why, I just found it, like, really cringeworthy.
I thought you were gonna say, for me, the only scene that I didn't like was, I really liked, there's a dance sequence, and I really liked how they handled that, and it didn't go into, like, the very, like, Shakespearean dramatic, like, oh, I love you, and, like, you know, kissing in the snow.
Oh, yeah.
But then they, like, added this unnecessary scene that was kind of cringeworthy.
Are you talking about later?
The one right after the dance. I was like that.
I loved that scene.
No, it was so like drawn out.
No, it wasn't. I loved it. I was like, this is it. Like,
no, it was drawn out.
That's what like human emotion is about.
To me, that was the only.
That was like the epitome of like human emotion. Like, yeah.
That was to me the only like real corny scene.
One of my favorite scenes, and I don't think anyone else. I don't know if they meant to do it this way, but obviously, so. Diana has to blend in with the real world, right? And they're trying to dress her up in Victorian clothes, and she's trying on all these outfits and she hates them, and they finally settle for like really like bland kind of jacket. She looks like Carmen Sandiego. And like a hat. And they're like, she's still like so pretty, we have to put glasses on her. And I thought it was so funny that during the fight, like they're trying to stifle who she is, and at one point like the glasses fly off and someone steps on them, and I was like, that was just like such a symbolic of like there is no like putting down who she is, like she is who she is and you can't cover that up. And I thought that was so cool, and like the symbolism of just like washing the no, not mine, I need these.
Okay.
But watching the glasses get smashed, and just like she was just like, I don't understand why you guys are doing this to me. And so them getting broken, and I was like, that's Wonder Woman, you can't hold her down.
I'll be honest, one of the worries I had was I saw so many people saying like, oh my gosh, it took a female superhero and a female director to do it right and blah blah blah. And so I was worried it might be overboard in that direction and come across as very or just very like heavy-handed, and I didn't think it did. I thought at the end they maybe could have like held back slightly. They're talking about, you know, like love and this and that and what, you know, you know, stuff like that, and I agree with that message. I think it was a little overt, and maybe they could have symbolized it a little better. But other than that, like I thought it was really well done, and I was sad there was no like after credits thing that would, you know, show us a little bit more of how it was going to tie into Justice League or whatever else in the DC universe.
I think you were supposed to infer with little Easter eggs in the movie.
Yeah, I really liked it, and it really impressed me. And the best part was,
I went in.
Yeah, that's what
I went in, like walking into the theater, there were posters, and I was like making fun of the posters and making fun of like Wonder Woman and just like the movie itself, and how like I thought it was gonna be so dumb, and then I walked out and I was like, I have cried 3 times, I feel so empowered. This is like, why I go to movies.
Wonder Woman's actually really cool, and I never in my wildest dreams would have said that before. So that's some supreme movie making skills over there that it ended up with me feeling that
way.
And
I think one of the reasons why I never really liked Wonder Woman is because to me, I tend to gravitate more of like the psychological, like Bruce Wayne, like dark, gritty kind of like darker side. And so I felt like Wonder Woman was always very like chintzy and cartoonish, and it was so easy for her. And I know it wasn't, obviously, but like I just felt like everything was so perfectly wrapped up in like a bow for her. Well, and so I felt like with this movie they really showed the nitty-gritty of her like coming to terms in the darker side of humanity and psychology, and dealing with, you know, blending in and learning about
herself wasn't
humanity.
Very dark.
No, but just like...
Because one of the things I really liked was how they portrayed...
But it did show the psychology of her learning about humanity and stuff, and that's what I really liked. It made me really, like... It brought a more realistic, rather than the, like, spinning around, and then all of a sudden you're, like, changed, you know?
I did like how they showed more of the innocence of, like, a superhero instead of, like, I'll save you. And that's another big thing. She really was there to, like... help people and make a difference, but it wasn't done from the like the typical superhero thing of like, golly gee, we'll save you, and with the power we unite, and together, you know, we can. There wasn't like that cheeseball nature that you see a lot.
No, not at all.
I didn't really like the final bad guy. I didn't. His.
It was so cool.
Some of it was cool. It was cool once she like powered up, but the beginning was a little like slow, and his suit. I didn't like his suit at all.
I loved it.
I feel like they could have made him look so much cooler.
It's like the melted metal, and he's just like.
Yeah, I think they could have done. I think they could have done a little more there, but it definitely was better than the fights in Batman vs Superman. It definitely had more oomph, and like all the fire and all of the effects behind. Like they really tried a lot to set Wonder Woman against more plain background, so she would just really stand out.
Yeah, they did.
And her attacks and her moves would really stand out, which was fun.
Like when you see her, because obviously she's dealing with the war and stuff like that. When you see her go into like no man's land and stuff, she just like is like a beacon around everything else around her that's dead.
That was
it's
really
just so cool to see like the little symbolism in like the costumes and the sets and like just it was so cool.
And her accent didn't get on my nerves, and I actually thought she was prettier than I expected.
Yeah.
Did find it funny that Chris Pine's character was Steve Trevor. It's like so close to Steve Rogers for Captain America.
Oh yeah, I never thought about that.
Which is really, really weird.
But those are two totally different things.
Totally different franchise or whatever. Overall rating, out of 10.
I'd say like a 9.5.
Wow.
10.
A 10?
9.5, 10. Like I feel like I can't give it a 10 because there were still parts that I was like, okay, that's kind of tacky.
Right.
But
and
like,
for me, it's like a superhero movie just can't be a 10.
I give it like a 9.5, 9.7.
Well, I would give it 8.5 or 9, which like for me is like really good and way better than most of the superhero stuff we see. I mean, the most recent being Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
That was really good.
I think well, it's hard because Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is so much more comedic, and therefore there is more of that cheese. And you know, people have complained a while about how like DC does such a dark and gritty take, and sometimes it doesn't work. And I didn't really like Batman vs Superman. I didn't really like Suicide Squad at all. But I feel like they nailed it here and found a nice mix of like that darker, but not just making it darker, but making it more real. And that was the part of it that I really liked, that they really captured the realness.
That's a good point.
And
Instead of just making it,
it felt more like an actual movie story that happened to have a superhero also as a part of it instead of a comic book movie, which I thought was really cool. So I think we both fully recommend it.
Yeah.
For anybody.
You have to see it.
Very cool. There
So
are some like creepy war stuff. Not really that bad though.
It's rare for me to see a movie that I immediately like, when is the next showing? I want to see it again.
It was really cool, and we really enjoyed it. So hopefully you guys can see it sometime. Really, really good. I highly recommend it. Even if you're skeptical, even if you're not a superhero movie fan, I think it turned out super well. So thank you so much for watching. Hope you liked our little review. We just want to capture this right after the movie. We waited driving home. Didn't say anything, which was tough.
It was a very awkward car ride.
Because normally we have like instant like conversation, and we held off. So hopefully you enjoyed this. If you did, give it a big thumbs up. Thanks so much for watching. Fantastic night. Till next time, drink some hot chocolate. And we'll see you all later.